And you're not lacking motivation. You're not lacking opportunity. The only thing you've never truly had is an irreversible decision. Life only changes direction when you cut off every way back. No more, let's see how it goes. No more, I'll keep going if it works out. When you make a firm decision, you leave yourself with no option but forward. And in that very moment, you become the first version of someone capable of changing their own destiny. A real decision doesn't come from a burst of emotion. It comes from an internal explosion, a place inside where you can no longer tolerate the current version of yourself. Not because you hate it, but because you know it's outdated. When you finally see clearly that living the same way is no longer an option, that's when you begin to reset the operating system of your life. That is the beginning of every transformation. You've told yourself hundreds of times, I want to succeed, but have you ever truly decided? A decision means never having to say it again. A decision doesn't let you negotiate with laziness, fear, or convenient excuses. A decision is like cutting your parachute cord and jumping, not knowing what's below, but knowing there's no going back. And strangely enough, that's exactly what awakens the extraordinary within you. Many people live by intentional delay. They keep saying they'll start tomorrow until that tomorrow turns into 5 years, 10 years, and all their potential dries up. Not because they lack talent, but because they never stood up and said enough. They think they're choosing safety, but in reality, they're digging deeper into mediocrity with every small decision they make each day. Failure doesn't arrive like a storm, it arrives like a habit. Not talking about action, I'm talking about mindset. A real decision changes the way you wake up, the way you look at your schedule, the way you say no to delay, the way you look in the mirror, and start behaving like the person you want to become, not the person you used to be. A real decision doesn't need a dramatic vow. It shows up in every action where you no longer allow yourself to retreat. You begin to reject meaningless conversations. You stop making deals with your weaker self. You act even when tired, even when scared, even when results aren't immediate. And that's something average people can't do because they only change when they feel motivated, when the weather's right, when someone agrees with them. But you are different because you understand a true decision is when you need no applause, no audience, no fast results to stay disciplined. You do it because you've decided. And once you decide, you become a threat to every old limitation you've ever had. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be explained. All you need is a single silent moment when you look at yourself in the mirror and know from today, there's no turning back, no need to tell anyone, but you know, you've decided. And if you're in that moment now, congratulations. That's where everything begins. No spotlight, no applause, but a new version of you is waiting. And it only appears when you dare to command yourself, begin. No condition, no delay, no return. You can't change your life with a single impulse, but you also don't need an entire year to start over. All you need is 21 days, not because it's a magical number, but because it's just enough time to break the old cycle, rebuild a new foundation, and start generating real momentum from within. I'm telling you, 21 days is the ideal time frame to push yourself past the first barrier where most people fall, their own resistance. People don't fail because they lack dreams. They fail because they don't stay long enough with repetition. They start with high energy only to be swallowed up by their old rhythm, unconscious habits, exhausting loops, and self-justifications that sound reasonable. But if you can maintain a stretch of intentional days, uninterrupted, non-negotiable, you begin to reprogram how your entire mind operates. And that's why 21 days is the turning point. Not because 21 days will make you great, but because 21 days is the shortest distance between who you are now and a version of you that's new enough to never go back. It's long enough for you to feel the shift, but short enough that your mind can't make excuses to quit. You see the destination, you can count every step. And that very feeling of, I'm getting closer, is what holds you when your perseverance starts wearing thin. 21 days is also where you retrain your internal system, the system most people let their circumstances dictate. You don't wait for inspiration. You don't wait for applause. You don't hope things go smoothly. Instead, you wake up each day with a specific behavioral template. Do what you said you would do, regardless of mood. Each day is a tiny slice in the structure you're building. And even if you can't yet see the building, you keep laying the next brick because you know, keep going, and soon enough, you won't even be able to imagine living any other way. You ask me why not 30 days or 90 days? Because 30 feels draining from the start, and 90 gives you room to delay with the excuse of I'll start tomorrow. 21 is the number that forces focus, not long enough for laziness to creep in, but long enough to push you through that initial threshold where most plans collapse. This is the time frame where you control every moment, every action, every micro response. And that control becomes a kind of mental strength, more enduring than any motivation. And more importantly, 21 days is where you begin to rebuild your trust in yourself. Because if you can't trust your own promise, you can't trust anything else. Every day you do what you committed to do, you're not just changing your life, you're repairing the relationship between who you are and who you want to become. And there's nothing more valuable than knowing this time you kept your word. So 21 days is not a challenge, it's a declaration, a stretch of days chosen for you to stop reacting to the world and start acting with intention, a period long enough to build inner drive, the only thing that will carry you forward after all the initial excitement wears off. You don't need a grand revolution. You just need 3 weeks to rewrite your internal code. And if you're ready, those 21 days could be the difference between a life truly lived and a life merely passed through. No one becomes excellent by accident. Success is not a gift of chance, but the result of design. If you don't actively design your life, someone else will do it for you. And I can assure you the plan they have for you isn't worth much. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they've never truly sat down and put pen to paper to draw the picture they want to live in. They make plans for vacations, but never for life. They know what they'll eat this weekend, but have no idea who they want to become next year. And then they're surprised when they wake up in a reality unworthy of their dreams, a reality created by their own drifting. Let me tell you, if you want to change your life, you have to become your own architect. No more living on autopilot. No more reacting to others' expectations. No more going along with momentum you didn't choose. Every successful person you've ever admired started with design. They designed their lifestyle, their values, their goals, their relationships, their time, even their silence. Nothing was random. Every habit, every decision, every step was calculated to serve a higher version of themselves in the making. You can't live by mediocre standards and expect extraordinary outcomes. You can't coast through your days and hope the picture of your life magically improves. Design demands honesty. You must take a hard look at where you are, bravely admit it's not enough, and then set new principles without needing anyone's approval. Your life is a construction project, and you are holding the blueprint. Well, if you don't clearly define your goals, your core values, and what matters most, you'll end up spending your life building someone else's dreams, and in the end, you won't just lose time, you'll lose yourself. Designing your life doesn't mean trying to control everything. It means knowing what's non-negotiable, what's a top priority, what deserves space in your limited time. When you don't design, everything crowds in. When you do design, you choose, and every choice becomes a declaration. I live with intention. Success is not a lucky breakthrough. It's a series of consistent choices made by someone who knows where they're headed. When you have a design, you have a standard to say no. You have a compass to stay on course. You have a reason to keep going even when results don't show up immediately. And you have a reason to realign when things go off track because you have a prototype, you know what you're building. And I'll tell you this, nothing is more powerful than someone who doesn't need direction from others because they've already located themselves. That's someone who isn't swept away by trends, isn't dependent on validation, doesn't need applause to do big things. That's someone who lives according to an internal design, not a crowdsourced map. Design is the first step in shifting life from reactive to proactive, from being controlled to being in control, from repetition to creation. And it begins with one simple question: how do you want to live? If you've never paused to answer that question, don't be surprised that you constantly feel lost. But once you dare to answer, everything begins to take shape with direction, with force. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin sketching. One line, then another, And if you persist, what you design will become what you live. Not because you were lucky, but because you were clear enough to choose and brave enough to build. Every result you're experiencing today, good or bad, stems from the one thing you can't see, your mindset. Not luck, not circumstances, not other people, only how you think, how you react, how you define yourself. If your mind is full of limitations, no matter how hard you try, you'll only keep spinning in an invisible cage. And if you don't learn to observe your own thinking, you'll become a victim of it without even realizing. I'm telling you, changing your mindset is not the first step on the path to success. It's the foundation. If that foundation is weak, every strategy that follows will collapse in silence. On the first day of this 21-day journey, you need to do something simple yet deeply uncomfortable. Stand guard at the door of your mind. Every thought that passes through your head must be checked, not to control it, but to observe. What do you think of yourself when you wake up? What do you believe about your abilities when faced with a challenge? What do you tell yourself when you make a mistake? Most people let their thoughts flow like water, unaware that those very thoughts are reprogramming their internal operating system every minute of every hour. Negative thoughts don't come from nowhere. They are programmed by the environment, by memory, by repeated phrases you've heard over and over. And if you don't examine them, you will believe them. And if you believe them, you will live exactly within those limits. On day 2, you need to clean the system. Write down the 3 most limiting beliefs that are holding you back. I'm not good with money. I'm not a leader. I always give up on what I start. Write them down. Then rewrite each one in the opposite direction, stronger, wiser, reflecting who you want to become. For example, I'm learning how to manage money and getting better every day. This is not a mental game. This is how you redesign your mental foundation to stop sabotaging yourself. On day 3, you begin the reinstallation. Read your new statements aloud every morning and every night. Don't just repeat them. Read them with emotion, with belief, with a clear image in your mind. You are reprogramming your brain like new software, and software only runs when installed repeatedly. The reason you're still living the same way isn't because you don't know something new. It's because you haven't repeated enough to believe it. From day 4 to day 7, you need to reinforce. Each day, look for a small piece of evidence that your new belief is true. Maybe you resist buying something unnecessary. Maybe you speak up in a meeting. Maybe you finish something you would have given up on before. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real. These small pieces of evidence will cause your brain to begin justifying the new belief, turning it into your new truth. And from there, you'll begin to act in completely different ways. I'm telling you, changing your mindset is not a glamorous process. It is a quiet war between the person you've been and the person you want to become. Every time you stop to correct a negative thought, every time you refuse to obey the voice of doubt in your head, you move one step closer to your best self. Others may not notice, but you will. And you will feel it clearly. What's changing isn't just your thinking, it's your destiny. No one can do this for you. No one can give you the right mindset. But if you're serious enough to guard your thoughts, you'll reclaim control over your entire life. And that is the most powerful beginning you can choose. You can't cross a desert if you don't know which direction you're headed. No one arrives at their desired destination by accident. And if you don't know what you're aiming for, don't be surprised if you wake up each day feeling like you haven't moved at all. The right mindset is the foundation, but goal setting and planning are the gears that start the engine of success. I'm telling you, if you don't stop to define your destination, you'll live a life that's busy but meaningless. Busy but going nowhere. On day 8, you need to build a vision, not the vague kind like I want to be happy or I want to be successful, but a vivid, sharp, colorful picture with shape, texture, and emotion. What do you want in your health, in your career, in your finances, in your relationships? Write it down. Write as if you are already living it. Use the present tense as if there's no gap between what you want and what you have. This isn't just a mental game. This is how you bring your nervous system into a state of action, not daydreaming. On day 9, from that vision, select 3 to 5 goals that truly matter for the next 90 days. No more than that. Too many goals will shatter your focus. Don't confuse ambition with distraction. Goals aren't for fun. They are your anchor for action. They're what compel you to adjust your habits, your time, and your standards. Don't pick easy goals. They won't make you grow. Choose the ones that force you to rise above yourself, because the real value isn't in the result, but in the person you must become to achieve it. On day 10, you need strategy. And this is where 95% of people give up, thinking, I'll just start and figure it out later. No. Success is a formula, not a gamble. For each goal, identify 2 to 3 leverage actions. The things that, if done consistently, will generate 80% of your results. Your strategy doesn't need to be complex. The simpler, the stronger. Don't try to do everything. Do the right thing. On day 11, turn that strategy into a concrete schedule. What doesn't show up in your calendar won't show up in your life. Break actions down weekly, daily. Write it clearly, what to do, when to do it, for how long. And don't wait for inspiration. Follow the schedule, not because you're always ready, but because you've already decided this is the only bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Ignore it, and you'll repeat yourself endlessly. Let me remind you of this. Successful people don't have free days. They have pre-programmed days. They don't sit around wondering what to do today. They don't chase deadlines. They create rhythm. Every action they take is the result of a strategic decision, and that's what separates them from the rest of the world. Setting goals isn't about motivation. It's about no longer living by impulse. Goals create positive pressure, the kind that pushes you out of your comfort zone and forces you to think like a creator. And planning is the tool that transforms that pressure into a clear direction. Without goals, you'll be dragged along by someone else's agenda. Without a plan, you'll waste your energy on urgent but unimportant tasks. And if that's how you're living, it's time to sit down and rewrite your entire operating system for action. You don't need to change the whole world. You just need to define clearly where you're going, why it matters, and how you'll get there. When those 3 things are clear, everything else becomes simple. You don't fail because you lack dreams. You fail because you lack a system. It's not that you're not smart enough. It's that you can't maintain small actions consistently. Motivation is the starting point, but daily discipline is what gets you to the finish line. And if you've never taken seriously what you do each day, don't ask why your life keeps repeating itself. I'm telling you, success doesn't come from one brilliant moment. It comes from the seemingly meaningless things you persist in doing silently, with no applause, no audience, and sometimes not even immediate results. You can see yourself. On day 12, you rebuild your morning. This isn't about waking up earlier than others. It's about starting your day with the awareness that you're leading your own life. A well-designed morning can change the trajectory of the entire day. You don't need to do 10 things, just 3 or 4 activities that reconnect you with your goals. Read the right book passage, move your body to awaken energy, write a few lines to organize your thoughts, and remind yourself why you started. You don't need an hour, just full presence, because if you can win the first 60 minutes, you can master the rest of the day. To examine how you're draining your energy, not just physical energy, but mental and emotional. Who's draining your battery? What habits are wearing down your spirit? And what things actually help you recover? Burnout doesn't come from hard work. It comes from having to constantly pretend, constantly cope, constantly live against what you believe. Cut out toxic relationships, limit time on things that numb you, like social media, pointless conversations, or addictive behaviors you keep justifying. Energy is your greatest asset. Lose it, and every strategy becomes useless. On day 14, you learn to control time with one simple method: time blocking. Not to do more, but to focus better. Schedule important tasks, not just urgent ones, ahead of time. Don't let life throw things at you and react to them. You decide what deserves space in your day. Block time for deep work, for movement, for learning, and for real connection. Every block of time you don't practically design becomes a gap where waste seeps in. On day 15, you eliminate distractions. The 3 biggest enemies of focus are notifications, multitasking, and people crossing your boundaries. Turn off all non-essential alerts. Do one task at a time. And most importantly, learn to say no. You don't have to be available for every request. You need to protect your right to focus. Because focus is the most powerful lever of productivity. No one moves fast when their mind is constantly yanked like a boat without a rudder. I'm telling you, discipline is not restriction. It's a behavior you repeat until it no longer requires effort. When you build discipline, you no longer depend on emotion. You act even when you're tired, even when you're busy, even when no one reminds you. You act because you know each day is a brick, and the building you want to construct cannot exist without those bricks. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. You don't need to break through every day. You just need to not give up. Success doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from structure. And daily discipline is that structure. Simple, repetitive, non-negotiable. If you can build this, you don't need to ask what the future holds because you're creating it hour by hour, day by day, through your own choices. You can't fly high if you're living in a confined cage, especially one you don't even realize you're in. Every effort to change becomes meaningless if you're still surrounded by elements pulling you back to your old self. The right mindset, clear goals, strong discipline. But if your environment doesn't change, it will silently pull you back like an invisible rubber band. I'm telling you, if you want to go far, you have to clear the path first. And no path is solid unless your living environment is deliberately redesigned. On day 16, you start with the most obvious place, your physical space. Look at the room you live in, the workspace you sit in, the car you drive. Every object around you is sending silent signals to your mind. Clutter creates confusion. Order creates control. Every time you see chaos, you're subconsciously confirming that you haven't taken control of your life. Cleaning isn't just about tidying up. It's an act of declaring, I no longer accept clutter in my thinking. Remove what you don't use. Keep only what serves your goals. And place inspiring symbols where you can see them easily. They don't have to be expensive, just meaningful. Because what you see every day reprograms what you believe about yourself. On day 17, you audit your social environment. Be honest, what standards are your 5 closest friends living by? Do they lift you up or drag you down? Do they help you face the truth or soothe your procrastination? Do they talk about visions or about other people? You don't have to cut anyone off, but you do need to recalibrate your proximity. A bird can't fly far if it keeps clinging to a flock that refuses to leave the ground. Choose to be near those who live with commitment. Their presence will make you feel ashamed if you give up and proud when you push forward. That's a nurturing environment, quiet but powerful. On day 18, you evaluate your information environment, what you read, what you hear, what you watch each day. Don't underestimate the power of these inputs. Every piece of negative news, every toxic story, every meaningless entertainment video is a drop of acid eroding your belief and focus. If you feed your mind garbage, you'll act out garbage. Limit your inputs. Turn off what makes you anxious, useless, or angry without offering any solution. Instead, choose content that helps you think more clearly, more deeply, and trust more in your own abilities. Social media isn't the enemy if you use it as a tool, but if you let it use you, all your internal progress will crumble. I'm telling you guys, your environment isn't just where you live, it's the air your spirit breathes every day, and you can't escape it through hope. You can only redesign it through decision. Every time you rearrange your desk, limit toxic interactions, or delete a time-wasting app, you're proving that you're ready for a higher version of yourself. You don't need everything to be perfect, but you do need everything to be intentional. Because if you don't build a living environment that aligns with what you want, sooner or later you'll return to what's familiar, and what's familiar is often the reason you haven't changed. A smart person sets goals. A truly serious one builds the environment to achieve them because they know motivation fades, willpower has limits, but environment, if designed well, will silently carry you forward even when you're at your weakest. And one day you'll realize you're no longer struggling to live well because the environment you've created now pushes you forward automatically. That's when you know you're not just trying to change. You're living in an ecosystem that promotes change. And when that happens, nothing can stop you. Without a map, you'll get lost. Without a clock, you'll be late. Without measurement, you'll lose your way, even while being busy. Success doesn't belong to the hardest worker. It belongs to the one who knows exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and where it's all leading. I'm telling you, if you don't measure, you're gambling with your own future. And if you don't take responsibility for your progress, you'll always blame your circumstances. The final 2 factors that turn this 21-day journey into a living system are measurement and accountability. Simple in theory, but the foundation that determines whether you move forward or fall back. On day 19, you need to create an accountability system, not to be watched, but to be mirrored. Choose someone you trust, a close friend, a colleague, a coach, or anyone sharp enough not to comfort your procrastination. Tell them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and when you'll report back. Don't choose someone lenient. Choose someone who will call you out the moment you want to quit. When you know you'll have to explain yourself, your mindset shifts. You act not because you feel like it, but because you've declared it. And once your words are spoken, if you don't follow through, you lose trust in yourself. Accountability doesn't create pressure, it creates standards. On day 20, you design your measurement system. Don't let everything stay vague. I feel like I'm doing better isn't enough. Track it, write it, score it, monitor it. It could be in a notebook, a spreadsheet, a phone app. The format doesn't matter. What matters is having a place to reflect on your daily behavior. Did you drink enough water? Did you finish your key task? Did you stick to your morning schedule each day? Just check a few critical points. The magic isn't in the numbers, it's in the awareness. You can't change what you don't identify, and you'll never improve what you don't measure. Don't fear low numbers. The real danger is having no numbers at all. When you dare to look at the data, you gain the power to adjust. Today you hit 60%, tomorrow 65%. This week you slip twice, next week only once. Progress doesn't come from perfection. It comes from small daily improvements. And the measurement system reminds you, you're not just trying, you're evolving. On day 21, you pause to reflect on the entire journey, not to celebrate or criticize, but to learn what worked, what didn't, what caused you to fall off track, what helped you push through boredom. Write it down. Update your strategy, refresh your system. This is not the end. This is the next cycle. Success doesn't come from one brilliant effort. It comes from your ability to repeat, optimize, and do better than before. This is the loop you'll carry not just for 21 days, but for the rest of your life. I tell you. Measurement isn't control, it's freedom. When you know exactly where you are, you stop floundering. When you take responsibility for your progress, you no longer live on emotional whims. When you have data, you don't have to guess. And when you repeat this process long enough, you don't need motivation to keep going. You just need a system. Remember, people don't live by what they know is right. They live by what they track. A person with a map always goes farther than someone who only has enthusiasm. And a person who holds themselves accountable will always achieve what others merely dream of. You don't need extraordinary talent. You need a transparent system, a true companion, and a promise to yourself that you won't break, even when no one's watching. When you have those three things, it's no longer if you'll succeed, it's when. Success never arrives like thunder, it comes like a drop of water, gentle, quiet, unnoticed, but day after day, it wears down the stone, it reshapes the landscape, it creates transformation without ever announcing itself. I'm telling you, what creates breakthroughs isn't one explosive moment, but hundreds of small actions repeated when no one is watching. That is the compound effect, the simplest principle and the most underestimated one on the journey of self-growth. The compound effect is when you improve by 1% each day, but the result isn't 365% after a year. It's over 3,700%. Because accumulation doesn't move in a straight line, it moves exponentially. The longer you sustain it, the faster you progress. Every action you take today might seem so small it feels meaningless. One page of a book, one clean meal, 1 hour of focused work, one temptation resisted, nothing impressive. But when you repeat those right small actions, you don't just change your behavior, you're reprogramming your identity. You don't need a breakthrough every day, you just need to get it right a little more each day. Because true consistency in simple things is the rarest skill of all. Anyone can try hard for one day. Very few can try hard for 30 days without demanding immediate rewards. But most people quit on day 8, day 15, when they don't see results. That's where you get ahead, because the compound effect works like boiling water. You won't see it change at 50 degrees, 70 degrees, or even 90. But if you stop heating at 99, you'll never see steam. And if you don't believe in the process, you'll give up right before the breakthrough. The compound effect doesn't only build success, it also builds failure. One poor decision today won't ruin you, but if you repeat it every day without any major catastrophe, you'll steer yourself straight into collapse. Every time you choose ease, every time you say just this once, every time you break a promise to yourself, you don't see the damage immediately, but you're quietly steering your life 1 degree off course. And if you keep that up for 3 years, you'll look back and no longer recognize how far you've drifted from the person you once wanted to become. I'm telling you, never underestimate the small things, because that's where all great things are born. Don't look down on a habit repeated in silence, because that's the starting point of every leap you've ever dreamed of. And don't stop just because you haven't seen results yet, because many of the biggest outcomes are created in the dark and then suddenly emerge as if from nowhere. If you understand the power of the compound effect, you'll stop rushing, you'll stop comparing, you'll stop asking, when will I see results? And you'll replace that question with, did I get a little better today? Because, a little each day is the formula for never falling behind. A little each day is how you build something great with bare hands. And a little each day is what separates the consistent from those who only know how to start. Success is the inevitable result of small, correct actions repeated long enough. It's not a reward, it's a chemical reaction. You do it right, you get it right. You do it wrong, you get it wrong. Ruthlessly simple, but precisely because it's that simple, there's no excuse left. You don't need to be a genius, you just need a little each day for long enough. And if you dare to do that, the compound effect won't just change your results, it will completely rewire who you are from the inside. No noise, no display, just certainty, repetition, and irreversibility. You've heard enough. You understand it all too well. And now only one thing separates a life transformed from a life that keeps drifting: choice. Not knowledge, not inspiration, but the concrete action you take after this video ends. I'm telling you, no one is stopping you from changing but yourself. No barrier is greater than the habit of procrastination. No enemy is more dangerous than the times you compromise with the old you. And if you don't decide right now, you'll lose your only chance, the chance to begin while you still can. 3 weeks will pass whether you do something or not. And after 21 days, you'll be standing in one of two places. Either closer to the version of yourself you once dreamed of, or back on the same old path, with yet another quiet disappointment added to your heart. The choice doesn't lie in your current emotions. The choice lies in whether you dare to tie the responsibility of your life to today's decision. If you've been waiting for a clear sign to begin, this is it. You don't need another piece of advice. You don't need another lesson. You just need one first action, however small. Don't confuse understanding with transformation. Many people know a lot but live very little. They listen, they nod, they agree, and then they forget everything within 15 minutes because they don't act, because they let perfection kill the start, because they think they need to be more ready, more prepared, wait for the right moment. But the truth is, the right moment will never come. There is only the moment you decide that even though I'm not perfect, I will begin from exactly where I am. And if you don't do that now, you'll continue to be held in place by the same old excuse, stuck in the same stagnant zone. I'm not asking you to do a lot. I'm only asking for 21 days, 3 weeks of discipline, 3 weeks of focus, 3 weeks of commitment, not so you can achieve everything, but so you can regain the feeling of being in control, so you can see that you can keep a promise to yourself, so you no longer live in the state of knowing but not doing. Because if you do it right for 21 days, you won't just start changing your results. You'll begin to believe in your ability to change. And when that belief takes hold, everything else will begin to shift naturally. You're standing at the intersection of old and new, of comfort and breakthrough, of repetition and evolution. On one side is a path you've worn down, familiar and predictable to the point of dullness. On the other side is a road no one has paved, no guarantees, but carried the promise that if you stay the course, you'll no longer be who you used to be. You don't need to be stronger than others. You just need to be more honest with yourself. Look back on the past years. How many times have you postponed? How many promises have you broken to yourself? How many times have you started but not finished? And are you truly ready to repeat it all over again? Life doesn't reward those who know the most. It rewards those who act. It doesn't need you to be the best. It just needs you not to quit. And it will open doors you never saw, unless you step forward. So right now you have two choices. Begin or lose. Begin and step into the cycle of true power accumulation. Lose and return to the same place carrying a deeper regret than before. The choice is yours. It always has been. But today, maybe you're finally clear-eyed enough to truly see it. You don't need a formal pledge. You don't need a starting gun. You just need to lay the first brick. Do the first small thing. Drop the first old habit. And if you keep going, the compound effect will carry you farther than you ever expected. But if you stop, you already know exactly where you'll end up. So before this day passes like every other, do something your future self will thank your present self for. Begin not because you feel like it, but because you've reached the point where you simply can't afford to live the same one more day.